Hi guys, is Reform UK the English version of the DUP? The party of no. No to human rights, no to immigrants, no to house building, no to the NHS, no to helping the poor. So one of their MPs, Rupert Lowe, appeared on the Reform UK friendly Talk TV podcast Never Mind the Ballots with Harry Cole to talk about, you guessed it, immigration. And it was a misinformation fest. However, Lowe doesn't just want to abandon conventions like the ECHR. No, he wants to go back to a time when black people were refused service at restaurants and denied housing. Have a listen to this.
On the illegal side, you've said you'd shut migrant hotels, you'd detain and deport immediately. You know, the Tories tried this, they could not do it. They are constrained by the ECHR, they're constrained by the Refugee Convention, they're constrained by international law, be that maritime law, all the things that you say you want to do. All of those things have been tried and have been proved to be impossible. We couldn't even set up an offshoring processing in Rwanda without it being dragged into the courts. How will reform do it where everyone else has failed?
Well, that's where we have to, as I said to you earlier, listen carefully.
I listened very carefully.
What we have to do is to have a plan to repeal the Great Repeal Act has to happen very quickly, and we have to repeal a lot of the malign legislation.
All at the same time. Take the fight in one go.
In one go. And we have to sort out our own ability to manage our borders. And that means, obviously, acts like probably the Race Relations Act of 65.
Okay. The Race Relations Act, this is unbelievable. The Race Relations Act of 1965, we have to sort it out. It's there to protect black people from being discriminated against when it comes to going into frigging restaurants, denying people service, access to public services. It was built upon later in 1967 and 1968 with other legislation. For example, access to housing. So this guy... And remember, this is framed under the idea of immigration. This is nothing to do with immigration. This is the Race Relations Act, which was there to defend, or to protect, I should say, people from discrimination based on race. Nothing to do with immigration. Now, why do Reform UK or Rupert Lowe support the idea of repealing the Race Relations Act? Because they want to live in a society where businesses are able to deny people service based on their race. They're against any sort of regulations. They're against legislation to protect people. They want businesses to be able to make as much profit as possible, and to hell with the consequences. He wants to live in a world where landlords can say, I don't want to rent out my properties, or I don't even want to sell my property to a black person. This is the society that Reform UK want to live in.
That's going to be massively controversial.
It's a huge amount of work. Probably the Human Rights Act.
Can you imagine the hows of the BBC, the Guardian, the Labour Party, the British establishment?
If the British people vote for it, that's what should happen.
So if the British people vote for Reform UK, and part of their manifesto is to repeal the Race Relations Act, well then, it's their fault if they suffer the consequences. The legislation is there to protect everyone, also to protect people from certain businesses. What Reform UK are saying here is, well, if you vote for us and we get rid of that legislation, then that's your fault. Even if the law is there to protect people. We're taking away those protections. That's what we want to achieve.
And that's what a reform manifesto is.
I don't care what the Guardian thinks, do you? I really couldn't care less.
It's not my go-to
What
paper.
I care about, if you're elected by the public, you care about what the public thinks.
So the plan is...
The public, Harry, is the boss. The public is the master.
No. Your donor is the master. The people who donate to Reform UK are the ones in charge. Look, what does Reform UK represent? It represents an organisation. It's not even a political party, it's a company. It's an organisation that wants to strip away protections when it comes, for example, to human rights, and when it comes to general protection for the environment or workers. Reform UK voted against measures to improve conditions for workers recently. To ban things like fire and rehire. They voted against that. They're not interested in the people or the public. They're interested in a very small section, the richest in society, business owners, corrupt business owners, robber barons. They're the people they're supportive of, not the general public. He also mentioned the Human Rights Act, or of course, which is a cornerstone of the Good Friday Agreement. Now, I've yet to hear, and this is one of the most frustrating things about journalism, is I've yet to hear a real journalist ask someone from Reform, Nigel Farage or Rupert Lowe or Richard Tice, what about the Good Friday Agreement? You want to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. You want to abandon this convention. You want to tear up the Human Rights Act. Then what's going to happen to Northern Ireland? What's going to happen to the Good Friday Agreement? Why do we never hear that question asked? It's because it's not important. Because once again, this is a pro-business, anti-worker, anti-environment, anti-human rights English nationalist party. They don't care about Northern Ireland. They don't care about Scotland. They don't care about devolution. They don't care about Wales. They don't care about any of these other parts of the UK. It's called Reform UK. It should just be called Reform England. And they want to be on the side of businesses who should be able to discriminate against people based on their race. And they want to tear up protections for British people. Remember, the Human Rights Act is there to protect British people. It's always framed as immigration. We need to leave it to bring down immigration, to control our borders. Their goal is not about borders. It's a tool they're using to convince people to vote for them. Rupert Lowe said here, well, if the public vote for this, then that's what they're going to get. So if the public, it doesn't even have to be a majority, vote for Reform UK, that means that it's okay to discriminate against people who didn't vote for Reform UK. In a civilized society, we put in protections for everyone. We don't say, well, we're going to protect some people, and then, if you voted for us, you're protected, but if you didn't vote for us, then you're not protected. That's not a civilized society. Reform UK are copying and pasting the sort of rubbish we're hearing from Donald Trump and his administration, his party. Copying and pasting this sort of rhetoric and these policies. We need to strip. They're talking the same about the anti-woke stuff that Donald Trump has been spewing over the last number of years. We want to do the same as that. We want to get rid of government waste. What it's about is, of course, taking away protections and support for the poorest in society and funneling this money into the private sector, into the people who you truly care about. This is a dangerous party. We have a Labour government who are trying to pander to Reform UK voters at the moment. And we're seeing the media amplify Farage and Reform as much as possible. I'm not saying at this moment it's possible that they would become the next government, but it definitely looks like the media want them to be the next government. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.